Okay, folks. I'm not exactly sure who's on as usual, but if you write a comment and I can actually see who is there. Looks like Denise is there. Hey, Denise. Um, and I'm just gonna wait. Hey, I'm really happy that you guys are showing up for this because it's kind of fun for me. Kind of stepping back into my old roots of ministering to people. I guess I really never stopped, but just taking little other paths on the way to my sense of godlikeness and enlightenment. But such as a time as this, right? We kind of use all our gifts and our training and the things that have allowed us to be, joyful in the midst of all this chaos. It's kind of crazy. Um, so, so yeah, it's really cool that people are showing up for this and looking at it after the fact. I know that everybody's lives are kind of crazy right now. I also know that there's an awful lot of other people doing the same sort of thing at this kind of time. I mean, you've got Oprah Winfrey doing stuff. You've got Panache Desai doing stuff. You've got lots of pastors who are doing this in their own churches. You've got there's one other guy that's doing a lot of this. Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle is kind of a cool person. And oh god, there's so many people. If you like Googled, webinars or on spirituality, you probably find gazillions of them. But that here's the cool thing about that. It's like is it that the light leaders in the world are showing up. They're saying, hey, we better pour it on because our people, and there are lots of people out there who really need this. And it's maybe it's one of those moments when we wake up and we're always looking to wake up. So I appreciate anybody who's here. So I'm gonna start here in a second. I'd like to try to be prompt because then everybody's got a life. Me too. And we've been studying the prayer of Saint Francis for the last 4 nights. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, yeah, Joyce Myers. Thanks, Denise. I mean, there's great people doing great work and encouraging us all to kind of get past this really really challenging and difficult time in the world, quite frankly. But what a chance again to find light, to find truth, to find depth, to find passion, and to find strength in who we are as a humanity during this time when we're all affected. I mean, it's not like one little corner of the world is being impacted by this virus. I mean, it's everybody. And quite frankly, I think we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what's happening. So prayer of Saint Francis. I mean, I love this particular stanza, but let me go through the whole thing. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is darkness, light, and where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I mean, St. Francis was really on it back in the 13th century. A global crisis. There was a global crisis taking place in the 13th century, and it was a big fat war that we call the Crusades. And everybody in Europe was fighting everybody in the Far East, and it was a mess. And what was it over? It was over conquest, basically. And religiosity and religions got involved because it was the easiest way to get people motivated to fight. Think about that. It's the easiest way to get people to fight over territory if they were fighting about God and their beliefs. One wonders whether we've really come very far since the 13th century, but because we still kind of fight about, the God and, who's going to claim the bragging rights to having what the truth is. I don't think God ever expected that to happen. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that every religion that's out there is there for a purpose because culturally people believe in different ways through different mechanisms, through different lenses, through different instruments, and one has has the power over the other. I just think it's stupid. So, but let's get into this fourth stanza. Where there is doubt, faith. Now, I know I'm a bit crazy when I say this, but I think doubt is a really important aspect of faith. I mean, think about it. Like, if if we didn't have periods in our lives where we just felt low or felt abandoned or felt lonely, or felt put out, why would we strive for something else? I mean, think about that for a second. I think I remember one time I was leading a service and I said to the parishioners at the time, I said, I remembered saying, doubt is a very important aspect of faith. And a woman came up to me afterwards. She goes, Pastor, you preach about doubt again, and that'll be the last you see of me. And I remember looking at her and saying, well, must have done my duty today because doubt is a really important piece of looking at life. I mean, gospel, you got to look at the Bible too about this. There's all kinds of doubt. There's doubt in Genesis, Abraham's doubt as to whether Sarah can actually be impregnated at 90 years of age. Don't get into the literalism of this passage. Just get into the feeling of it, where God was addressing Abraham's doubt, and He basically rewarded Abraham and said, "Yeah, it's going to happen." In fact, it did. There's other places in Genesis where there's doubt. Rebecca, has a son named Isaac, and her husband Jacob doubted that too, and then sure enough, Rebecca has a son. I mean, in old age, those are sort of more maternal images of doubt. In the New Testament, we all probably have heard of the doubting Thomas. Now, Thomas was one of the 12 disciples who was not at the upper room when Jesus appeared to the other 11 disciples when he came off the cross, was resurrected, and appeared to the 11 disciples and said, "Peace be with you." And they're all freaking out, saying, "Well, how did you get here? You're dead." I'm being kind of secular in my view of this whole thing, my interpretation of this, but Thomas wasn't there. So a week later, Thomas is in the upper room, and he's like, "Dude, if I don't see Jesus, I don't see the holes in his hands and his feet and the spear in his side, I am not going to believe you. I just do not believe you." And sure enough, Jesus appears. Now that's part of the Christian message of believing in something that is unbelievable. Now, I for one feel that the disciples would not have risked their lives, would not have all died as martyrs, if they didn't feel like they had some extraordinary experience of seeing Jesus in his absolute miraculous self. That's my own opinion. And I think that because they all doubted at certain stages in their belief of Jesus, they all doubted. I mean, think of Peter, the disciple Peter, he's like, "Dude, I am not going to leave the nets and my fishing for you. No way, no how." And he does. He has doubts. John has doubts. Andrew has doubts. Matthew has doubts. Matthew was a tax collector. Come on, he was like a bread and butter kind of guy. He's like, who is this? They had to see him. Okay. Now, centuries later, in our relative world, we have doubts. Okay. I've had doubts. I just told a story about a doubt. Now, I had an experience, though, in my life, which gave me a lot of faith in something I really doubted. And I'm going to tell the story a little bit here. I've got, a few minutes, so I'm going to go for it. Many years ago, I was asked, I was about 23 years old, and I was working for a company called Americares at the time. And I was asked to go negotiate with Mother Teresa, literally in Rome. This was 1988, in the middle of the Sudanese crisis. And I had a lot of doubts as to whether I could actually do what was being asked of me, which was basically to be an entourage of Americares and persuade her to get involved with the Sudanese crisis back in 1988. But off to Italy I went, off to Rome I went, and I'm abbreviating the story because it's kind of important to honor the time here tonight. But there I was in Rome, and I found Mother Teresa's Sisters of Charity. And make a long story short, I waited 4 hours to see Sister Teresa. She knew I was there, and I was told to wait, so I dutifully waited. And again, it's a longer story. It's really kind of interesting, but here's the point. I had been told that, not to bow down to Mother Teresa once I met her. And I thought, why would I bow down to anybody? I mean, come on. It's kind of an egoic little um, minion at the time at this little organization that would actually become a very big organization now. But I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why I would even have the temptation to bow down. Right? I knew her story. I knew she was pretty important. She was a world leader, all that kind of good stuff. So so 4 hours go by and it's dark. I got in there in the afternoon. It was evening. It was dark. And one of the sisters came up to me and said, Mother Teresa will see you now. And I'm looking around and I don't see her. And I walk out into the courtyard and there she was. There was this little tiny woman. She stood about 4'8" at the time. Little, I mean tiny. And I saw a halo over her head. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I've only seen these images in Michelangelo Sistine Chapel, images of the baby Jesus in Madonna pictures with a halo over his head and a halo over her head. And I'm like, oh, come on. This is just, some artist's rendition of what, a mystery looks like. But there it was. I saw the halo over Sister Teresa's head. And I walked up to her and gosh darn it, it was all I could do. All I could do. Did not want to bow down. And as I was going down, she grabbed my hands and she pulled me up. And she said, thank you for coming. What can I do for you? And ensued a weekend of negotiation with Mother Teresa to invite her into helping us at the time bring medicines and medical supplies into the Sudan in 1988. And I mean, I had serious change of life at that point in time in my life and couldn't quite conceive of what I had seen. And I had a lot of changes of opinions at that point of time. And it was not long after that I applied to Yale Divinity School and got in. And the rest is a bit of history at this point. But doubt. If we didn't have doubt, it would be really, really hard to develop faith, because if we just sort of believed willy-nilly all along, and if we just went to school and just went to church and went to confirmation classes and all kinds of religious settings where we learn about the Bible and God and Jesus and in any other religious tradition out there, and we just kind of dutifully believed and didn't have moments where we questioned. Eesh, I'd hate to think of what we were and we'd become little minions without questioning, without moments where we had to really grind and go deep and figure out what we believed. So here we are in time and life, time and space in our life as a human species. And we have some doubts. We have other doubts. We have doubts about government. We have doubts about authority. We have doubts about truth, right? Oh my God, where do we find truth in this wild world of media and false truths, whatever, false news, whatever that is. Look, doubt is a part of faith. I'm just going to say it. It's a part of our faith life to have moments where we question. And it's okay. Okay, look at Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, asking God to take this away. I have doubts, God, about who I am and what I can do. Take it away from me. There's some big doubt right there. The guy who ended up on the cross had doubts hours before he was arraigned by the Sanhedrin. So, look, we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones. So let's get into a meditation, though, about what it means to be faithful in the midst of doubt. Okay. So again, let's try to center ourselves. The meditation will be a little bit shorter tonight, as will be the prayer. So, put your feet on the ground, set back, relax your body, close your eyes. And I don't mean close your eyes like, sometimes I do with a real furrowed brow, like I'm really intense and serious, but just close your eyes and be peaceful. And take an opportunity to step back from the day. It's Monday. If we're working, we just got back. If we're not working and it's just been a regular old Sunday, so to speak, try to find a sense of peace and a sense of quiet. And we're going to invite the deity that makes the most sense to you in your life, whatever that may be, into your heart, and your mind, and into your soul. And find that energy of calm. Maybe put your hand over your heart and just let the energy of your hand penetrate through the rib cage and into your pumping heart, and quiet your mind. Just keep it quiet. And those restless thoughts, those discontented feelings, whatever they may be, just settle them down. Ask them to be quiet for a time. And think about peace. Think about quiet. Think about silence. Pray for these things to be in your life at this moment. And settle your body down. And let the feeling of God's presence work his way and penetrate into your mind and into your heart and into your soul. Breathe. Deep breaths. Really deep, opening up your chest, activating your chakras. Those of you who know the Eastern traditions, those chakras that are spinning cycles of energy throughout our body that keep us in balance. And in this time and place in our lives, our chakras are a little wobbly. And they're not really spinning symmetrically the way they should because we're concerned, as we should be. However, in a time of peace, in a time of quiet, in a place where we can find some calm and some serenity in our lives, this is when we focus on our bodies and our flesh and our blood and our bones and our energy centers and ask them to step up and to let us know we're not alone. We're never alone in crisis. We may have our doubts, but we're never alone. We're always being held, always being comforted, always being administered to, and that's the truth of every religious tradition. And I love lots of little prayers out there which basically says, "Oh Lord, I may doubt you today, but please do not doubt me." Can't remember who said that. And we may have lots of moments in our lives when we feel doubt. Somebody doesn't step up the way we expect them to, as a family member, a sibling. We didn't get the phone call we wanted today. We didn't get the promotion that we wanted. This virus has just thrown everything off kilter. I mean, think of all the ways that we have been thrown off balance in the last 4 weeks, and how we're going to continue to feel off balance in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Help us to know that in our doubts, there's always a glimmer of light, always a glimmer of hope, always a faithful response in some way, shape, or form. God is responding to us. It's easy to have doubt, and it's part of the process. Sometimes it's harder to fight through the doubt and get to the faith. All of our religious traditions ask us to do that, to fight through the tough times, to fight through the moments when we're just desperate and we don't have the answers. so that we can connect to something deeper, something more valuable, something that's inside of us, something that goes beyond the surface, something that's not in the money, not in the job, not in the house, not in the things that we think we are measured by, but that are deeper than all of those things that can't even be measured. I know there's doubt. I know there's fear. I know there's loneliness. I feel it too. But maybe I've had just enough experiences in my life to know that through hard times, through doubtful moments, there's always an ability to find gratitude and find peace and find calm, find hope and find faith. Remind us, Lord, that St. Francis had his moments of doubt, otherwise he wouldn't have put it in his prayer. I mean, think of that. St. Francis, the great theologian of the 13th century, who wrote volumes of theology, and this prayer that we so honor in so many traditions and places of prayer and worship, he put it in there. He put it in there. He must have put it in there for a reason, because he too had doubts. He had enough doubt, and he brought it to God, and God answered him with a beautiful vision and image of Jesus looking down on him from the cross and loving him. And that allowed him, that vision, that moment in his life allowed him to put it in this prayer. So if you think you're alone in your thoughts and your doubts, think again. It's okay. We're going to be okay. This whole process, whatever we're going to go through, is going to be okay. And we're going to find some joy in all this. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I went through some doubtful moments even today. If you were here this morning, you were with me and my partner, Susan, who's always been an incredible example of strength and witness in my life. She gave me faith. And it was unexpected. And if I wasn't vulnerable enough on my doubts, I wouldn't have been able to receive the gift of faith. I guess that's the answer. So with that, I'm going to close. And I'm just going to ask you to think of the doubts in your day, in your life, process them, lift them up, give them to God, and ask Him to show you a faithful response. Thanks very much. Have an awesome evening. I love you all very much, and thanks for coming tonight. Be well.